Howdy, y'all. This is Taylor Ursula of That's So Pisces, and it's time to talk about our Pisces new moon. This new moon is taking place at 20 degrees of Pisces on Sunday, March the 10th at about 1 a.m. here on the West Coast, which means late Saturday night, the 9th for y'all elsewhere. The moon enters Pisces on Friday, March the 8th, and this is the same day that Mercury kind of swims into the deep, faraway fog of Neptune. So we're looking at a pretty like spacey day / weekend. This is Mercury about to make its way into Aries, so about to kind of burn off all that it's been wading through at this time. But we've spent the past several weeks really between time dimensions, perhaps, kind of revisiting the past and maybe dreaming or imagining what the future is going to look like, wondering what it is we're navigating in the present that's going to help us kind of move through all of that, all of those layers. And merging into Neptune first is really kind of peak Pisces season. The sun will do this too at the first quarter moon in Gemini that takes place next week. And so we'll have a few planets passing through this very ethereal, very unworldly, very far away kind of space vibes. Now, what confounds this energy a bit is that the following day, on the 9th, Mars runs into a square to Uranus from Aquarius to Taurus at 19 degrees. The vibe I'm getting immediately is the idea of kind of being adrift in a dream and running into something unexpected that we didn't see kind of at our feet, perhaps. Maybe I'm thinking about like sleepwalking and kind of like running into a wall. This idea that we are in some capacity kind of lost or deep diving up here and elsewhere, kind of stumbling into something that we aren't really paying attention to in the moment. Now, what that actually manifests as may be quite different. We might be in a space of imagining what the future is going to be like and maybe reviewing some of the past. And even though that is engaging us in a very kind of emotional, again, like between time dimensions kind of space, there may be something like brewing beneath the surface instinctually within us that is awakening, that is becoming empowered, becoming frustrated, maybe like being catalyzed pretty quickly or unexpectedly. Tying this back to the Sagittarius third quarter moon that we just had, was there something maybe released in that moment or kind of brought to the surface to review that actually needs to be addressed at this time? And could that be some of the Mars colliding with Uranus energy that we see manifesting now? Is this us finally acting on, right? Mars is usually our sense of action. Is this Mars finally acting on what was imagined or what was kind of intended or set into motion when the new moon in Aquarius squared Uranus a few weeks ago? So there's a few different ways we could be seeing this show up. Maybe all of these layers feel correct to you. Maybe that's part of what Mercury is like kind of reviewing in the past. It might be reviewing the more recent past and thinking about what was initiated / stirred up / catalyzed at that new moon. And we can even think back to the Capricorn new moon, since that is at an exact sextile to this new moon at 20 degrees. That new moon was a square to the nodes. So we can think about this year so far and get a sense of, you know, what is it that has really been started, initiated, theorized, imagined, etc., that now might be taking shape in a way that's creating actual change in our environment. We've been talking about the change. We've been imagining what the change is going to feel like. We've been embodying the change in some ways while waiting for it to be met externally outside of us. It's been push and pull. It's been sticky, confusing, weird. Is this the moment where something big actually kind of gets pushed through in that sense? And that would make sense because, like, I'm kind of thinking about the idea of like something being birthed into the world. Like that birth is chaotic, right? Like birth is painful, birth is involves screaming and like just it's a wonder, right? It's a true wonder of the world. Those kind of literally life-giving moments are eruptive, right? And disruptive and uncomfortable and often happen with a bang, often happen with some chaos, with some violence, perhaps. Okay, so all things that we could be contending with as we experience the juxtaposition of this very spacey moment in time surrounding this new moon that's also punctuated, pierced by this friction. Remembering too, just really quick, that Mars is still ruling the North Node. And so whatever Mars is up to has the potential and might be motivated by that draw toward courage, initiation, authenticity, activation, some sort of push for independence. And so Mars colliding with Uranus may be trying to provide that for us in some way. Just a thought. Rounding out some of this friction is the Sun, which from Pisces comes through and enters into a sextile to Uranus later that day. This is the last aspect to the Sun before this new moon, so before the moon meets the Sun and starts this new cycle for us. And so this sextile is much softer than the square that Mars makes. There's an acceptance, and that makes sense for a Pisces Sun. A Pisces Sun is adapting. A Pisces Sun is taking in the environment and then also outputting to the environment. Mars is in a fixed sign right now, so is Uranus, and there may be some more like interrupting feeling around that square in terms of, well, to get to the freedom I'm seeking, it means I need to throw a wrench into the way things are now. Guess what? We're humans. We are creatures of habit and comfort. We don't like change. And so if we've been thinking about change, talking about change, pushing for change, dreaming of change, all of that has to show up as some sort of actual change to our day-to-day lives, to the world that we currently live in, to the routine that we inhabit. And that part is much harder, right? And so we may see this as, or experience this as like a confrontation of, one sense versus the other. I want this change. I know this change is important. I need to move in this new direction. And yet to do so means to sacrifice everything I know and have right now. And like, I don't like that. That feels freaking awful. Change is difficult. This is why we avoid it as humans. It's so pleasant. But yes, all of that is true. Everything there is true. We need the change. The change is hard. So the Sun coming through and making this sextile, Mars again is our acting on something. It's also our sense of ego, right? And so that might be that very human part of us feeling very confronted by what we must do in order to experience the change that we're seeking. And then the Sun comes through from Pisces and says, I can see what this is about. I can see the big picture here. I can zoom out and think about this whole story and see where, yeah, this was going to be necessary, huh? Okay. Well, yeah, all right. I can accept that. I can accept that. I can feel the grief of it, right? This is some of what Pisces' strengths are, is that it can radically accept what is happening in the moment while recognizing that what it feels in the moment is very real and appropriate, and also like will be part of the bigger story at hand. So there's a dreaminess starting off this moon. There's again like a piercing that happens on the way to this moon, followed by some acceptance, perhaps some ability to embrace what's going on, some ability to, again, like kind of zoom out a bit of the immediacy of this, like, survival trigger, and saying, yeah, this was needed. Okay. And this is what we bring into this new moon that occurs, again, late Saturday night for y'all, further east, and very early Sunday morning for us here on the West Coast. And just to bring it back to the Aquarius new moon for a moment, I mentioned a few moments ago that this last new moon we had before this one in Aquarius was where the sun and the moon squared Uranus, and now we see Mars squaring Uranus. And so to see the sun enter into a sextile now with Uranus, where at the last new moon we had the sun square Uranus, there might be a softening into some of the realizations we had at that new moon, right? That Aquarius new moon where we were kind of advocating for new rules, new guidelines that we were going to kind of live by together, whatever that looked like for us. There was some confrontation there that was disruptive to our sense of self. Now our sense of self is stepping into these changes, even if our ego selves, our primordial instinctual selves are triggered. I mentioned too that Mercury would soon be burning off Pisces season by stepping into the flames of Aries, and that happens on Saturday the 9th as well. So just about 4 hours before this new moon, after the sun has made this sextile to Uranus and has embraced some of what's changing, Mercury also gets this fresh start, stepping into Aries, feeling a bit more impulsive. And so something to watch out for here is that Mars is now ruling Mercury as Mercury enters into Aries. And Mars earlier this same day has just squared Uranus. We might find ourselves suddenly saying things that have needed to be said, that have been brewing in here, that have been moving through the poetry of Pisces. We've been trying to find the words. We've been making sure the words are really communicating what we're feeling. We've been tapping into those feelings and allowing those feelings to inform us. And so all of that may very well come to the surface quite suddenly as Mercury enters into Aries as a result of kind of the burning off of that Mars-Uranus square. So just look out for that. I'm not saying that anyone shouldn't say what needs to be said, right? But just know that that energy will be present, and maybe be prepared for that energy to be quite possible for you. So just an hour after this new moon is when daylight savings ends and we all spring forward. And that feels kind of like a parallel to Mercury entering Aries as well. Suddenly, we are jumping into spring. We are ready for the crossing of the Aries threshold. We are ready for that spring equinox portal. And it's just about 10 days away at this point with this new moon. Now, the moon's final aspect before meeting the sun is also this sextile to Uranus. So both the sun and the moon get this meeting, this little high five to Uranus over in Taurus, and being ruled by Jupiter hanging out in Taurus. And so it's certainly, again, an emotional embracing as well of what it is that we are kind of awakening to now, or what we see starting to change around us. Now, on Sunday the 10th, we also have Mercury newly in Aries making the sextile to Pluto newly in Aquarius at 1 degree. So we now see the planets making the connection to Pluto from a different placement, right? We had all the planets meet Pluto, kind of merge with Pluto while moving through Aquarius. They went unseen to each other while the planets have been moving through Pisces. Now Mercury, the first planet to pop into Aries, is meeting up with Pluto again. And so there is perhaps a deeper understanding of what's been changing or what's been unfolding, evolving around us. There is some sort of integration, perhaps, that is possible to us now. And this is made especially more potent by the moon moving into Aries later that night and making a conjunction to Mercury and that same sextile to Pluto. So whatever is starting to open up at this Pisces new moon, it's being kind of transported more deeply into our instincts. We're gaining a deeper understanding of who we are and what it is that we are maybe outgrowing or becoming bigger than within us. Right? That Pluto energy of transformation, of kind of reconciliation, of understanding on a very deep level what it is that we need at this time, and maybe being able to speak to some of those triggers that have been awakened right now, and kind of getting an understanding of, yeah, I get why that's coming up for us, and that's why it's been important for us to do this or to move through this or to experience this now. All part of this strength journey that we're on. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull some cards. We're starting a new cycle. And let's see what this new cycle will bring. What's opening up now? What is like shaking awake? What is being like jolted into being now? Let's take a look. See you there. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So you might notice a little difference here today. I've been shuffling to allow for reversals, which means I may have to do a little less work in kind of transcribing for each of the positions. We'll see how this goes. I started this for my own birthday ball. I felt like, let's just bring him in. Let's bring him in. We're gonna experiment with this. It may drive me crazy. I may correct this deck and put everything upright again. We'll see how this goes. So, a quick reminder, if you want to pull along, you can head to priestessbaby.store. There is a free moon phase full tarot spread PDF. And you can pull along with us and have all the prompts on your own. So for this new moon, we are looking at a cycle that begins for us now, as well as, well, that didn't shuffle at all, as well as what has been cleared away to allow for this shift. There we go. So a cycle that begins for us now, and what has been cleared away to allow for this shift. What this new cycle may look like as it unfolds. And lastly, how we can ground our ideas and intentions now. Okay. It's a brand new cycle. It's a clean slate. Let's see what this kind of Mercury fog time is bringing to us. Okay. Excuse me, friends. Okay, we have 3 reversals and an upright. Fun. What's on the bottom? 4 of Swords. Okay. So, a cycle that begins for us now. Queen of Pentacles reversed. This came up for me personally recently as well. And thinking about this, I tend to think the cycles that are opening are more of like a positive thing. So thinking about this in this sense, I'm getting an understanding that we are maybe turning inward to reframe like what the Queen of Pentacles feels like and looks like for us. You may have heard me describe court cards reversed as stepping out of a role. We've been the Queen of Pentacles. We've been connected to our resources. We've been rooted in them. We've been grounded in them. to an extent that we've been able to reflect some of that outward, maybe able to like disperse some of that or share in some of the wealth, whatever that wealth looks like for you. So perhaps this new cycle looks like us pulling back from doing that in some capacity. Where have we given more than we have to give? Where are we feeling depleted, right? The Queen of Pentacles can only feel rooted in what the Queen has if the Queen accesses it themselves. But the Queen is not going to feel grounded and supported if they're reflecting outward all of those resources and not keeping any for themselves. And that is the role of queens. Queens root into their own grasp of the suit, right? Kings are the ones who really externally manifest that. Kings are the ones who are really very openly giving to others. Like, I have mastered so much of this that I have a surplus to provide outwardly. The Queen is sort of on the threshold of that surplus. Like, the Queen is kind of like recognizing, oh, I've got the tools I need. So the Queen of Pentacles might have a little bit of a surplus that they are able to kind of, again, reflect outward, or at the very least invite others in to share, right? Whereas the King is like, here's your payout, here's your paycheck, here's that bonus, that's all yours. But the Queen might be more like, come over, I'm going to be the hostess with the mostest. And I'm going to make tea and really like treat you. But it's not necessarily something that you're going to walk away with, right? It's an experience that you might come and have. So what experiences have you been kind of providing for others that it's time to maybe pull back on? It's time to maybe give more to yourself at this time. It's time to maybe reframe what playing this role looks like for you. This may be a cycle where we turn inward and recognize that we feel this way. That might be some of that Mars-Uranus square is, hey, hold up. I'm supposed to be enjoying this, and it turns out I'm not. It turns out I'm not getting any of this. Where am I depriving myself? Where am I witnessing a perception of lack? Maybe all of this change that we keep talking about, and Mars being the kind of planet that is pushing into motion what was generated at the Aquarius new moon, might have us in a mindset of scarcity. We might feel like our realm of stability is turned upside down on its head. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. What has been cleared away to allow for this shift? Hesitation. The Eight of Wands upright is, here we go. I'm putting this out into the world. We're moving quickly. Things are happening quickly. Maybe there's been a resistance to knowing what the message is and not wanting to put it out there. And that's something we certainly explored in the transit portion of this video. Maybe I've been sitting on some ideas. Maybe I've been sitting on some truths. Maybe I've been waiting to say something. Maybe I haven't been sure of what to say. Some message has been kind of brewing within me, and I've been making space privately to entertain this, to figure out what this is, to fully understand it, and this resistance is now being cleared away. Or perhaps there was a sense of stagnation, right? If the Eight of Wands is things are happening quickly around me and kind of coming, like clicking into place, then this might be nothing's moving. I'm waiting for the signal, the signal's not arriving, nothing, I keep waiting, and perhaps the need to wait is what's being cleared away. That signal's finally coming through to go ahead and release those birds. What this new cycle may look like as it unfolds. Reframing what our relationships look like. Maybe we're pulling back from some of our one-on-one relationships, right? Maybe we are, in the same way we're reframing what this looks like for us, we're also thinking about, what do I want my relationships to look like moving forward? I don't actually know. I've been out here connecting with people, but it's not really feeling great, or it's not yielding the connection that I need, right? I'm trying to connect and it's not going through, similar to this message idea here. And so maybe coming back inward and thinking about, where is this not connecting and what does this connection need to be successful? What do I want this connection to even look like so that when I open up these cups, I know what it is what I'm looking for? How we can ground our ideas and intentions now. Oh, this card shows up when it's really needed. Analyzing where we are being false. Are we in a group of people that is encouraging us or pushing us to be false? Do we need to then pull back from those relationships? Have we been resisting actually coming out with a truth about this? And it's time for us to ground our intentions and ideas by confronting this. Is it time to get a look at who around me is being false? What does that tell me about what I want these relationships to look like? What truth needs to emerge when I look at that? Are some of these relationships like depleting me, right? So where's the lie? Where's the imposter syndrome? Who's lying to me? Where am I lying to myself? Getting clear on this helps us make much more sense of these reversals. I'm pretty sure that once we spot the lie here, all of this, it makes sense that all of these are now reversed, because it's like, oh shit, okay, this is the bad place. And now I'm really clear on all these things, and it's time for me to turn within and take a look. All right, y'all. Let me know how this feels with the reversals in real time, rather than me kind of exploring both ways. Let's see if this is something that feels good. If you enjoyed, please like, share, subscribe. We will meet up next week to talk about that Gemini first quarter moon, and we'll deal with the sun merging into that Neptunian space cadet arena. All right, so I'll see you there.